Now to our focus of the day. Now, since year 2000, Nigeria has struggled with instituting a new law that will guard the oil and gas operations in the country, but without much success. In 2008, the Petroleum Industry Bill was presented to the National Assembly, but still yet to become a law. Well, the bill seeks, amongst other things, to streamline functions of industry regulatory agencies being performed by Department of Petroleum Resources, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, with a view to eliminating overlaps for effective operations. But an analyst believes this separation of powers among regulators is particularly important, well, according to them, to remove bureaucratic bottlenecks that impede rapid development in the oil and gas sector. But among the regulators, the DPR stands out as the arrowhead with regards to regulating and monitoring oil and gas activities in Nigeria. In order to ensure standard compliance and best international industry practices. Now, this is with a view to conserving the nation's hydrocarbon resources and maximizing returns on investments to the government, especially as the petroleum industry accounts for more than 90% of the nation's foreign exchange earnings through crude oil exports and over 80% of its total annual income. Even though it is one of the most restructured agencies of government, the Department of Petroleum Resources has performed its functions to the extent that operators and the general public alike are in no doubt about who is in charge of what in the petroleum industry, from the downstream to the upstream sectors. I have joining me via Skype from Victoria Island, the Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Department of Petroleum Resources, Engineer Saki Awalu. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on this program.
Let's start with the impact of COVID-19, which is something that we've always discussed about at the moment on the oil and gas sector, as well as the scope of strategy policy the DPR has realized or released for the sector survival post-COVID-19.
The industry actually, DPR has.
Go ahead.
The DPR has put up strategies and programs for the COVID-19. We realized the pandemic is real. So what we did is to establish a situation room, and this situation room really is to monitor the industry activity completely, from export, production, and all operations that relates to oil and gas. And we achieve stability. And for this COVID-19, what we did is to establish and send a lot of memos to the companies on what they should do for production, for construction side, for everything. This has enabled us to stabilize the industry as we go along.
Indeed. Is faced with the fears of a second wave of COVID-19, and the impact of the dampening sentiments from this report is a cause for concern. There are some reports of rising number of COVID-19 cases among workers at Nigeria's offshore oil fields. What other protective measures are now being inculcated at this standard of operations?
So what we did actually is to look at second wave, but we don't pray for it, but we are prepared to really take it on. We put together the cycling, that is the time that offshore workers and workers in the construction site to do 14, 14, 14 or 14, 28, 14. And we look at it in a way that we balance and reduce the number of people in those locations, and we encourage the contamination, we encourage testing, and we work with all the other agencies responsible for really making sure that the test is there, like NCDC and others, to make all the clinics that are there in the industry to be COVID compliant in terms of testing, and we ensure the quarantine for the 14 days. That is what we do. And for the industry to survive, we look at 4 elements, because we have triple force. I call it triple force. COVID is one force. I call the pricing, that is the dip in price, another force, and also the supply glut. another force. So this, we have to deal with this triple force, and we have to see how we can take the industry from this triple force, which COVID really enhanced it, to really next level. And for that, we put like a survival strategy, which is full survival strategy. We rationalize the portfolio, and cost control and management, and strategic partnership, as well as new business and operational resilience. All this is geared towards making the industry viable post-COVID, and also surviving, swimming under these really storm waters.
Indeed, stormy waters. The DPR inaugurated the network code operationalization teams for the full implementation of the Nigerian Gas Transportation Network Code. What does this mean for the sector?
Actually, the network code, simply we call it network code, is a set of rules that brings about clarity, simplicity, and transparency in the gas subsector. The suppliers, the agents, the off-takers, all of them, they are on the same platform, and they have equal opportunity to really invest, trade, and ensure that the business continuity is there in the gas subsector. So that is simply put the network code. And why network code? Remember, the president of His Excellency made a pronouncement 1st January, in which he promised Nigerians to create over 100 million jobs. And that is based on gas. And the Minister of Petroleum Resources, that is the Honorable Minister of State, called this year of gas. So in February, he launched the network code. And DPR now, we operation, and he gave us 6 months. So within that 6 months, we operationalized the network code to really bring people so that they can invest, and the entire business has clarity, has predictability. And we put a committee now in which we will now hit the ground running, so that we make the ministerial target and create that opportunity for investors, for off-takers, for producers, for agents. And all this is in line to opening up all the gas-based industries. Look at it this way. The country already opened up, that is Mr. President, under his leadership, he bring about 3 critical projects that crisscross the country: the OB3, the ELPS expansion, and the AKK. The OB3 is Obiapu Obricom Oben, which link up the eastern part of the country to the west. And the ELPS is bringing to the central part of the country to the west. And to the north, you now get Nigerian gas Nigerian gas pipeline, a link to Ajakuta, Kaduna, Kano, which recently plugged off. So this provided opportunity for gas-based industries to be established. And to achieve that, you need the network code. And that is why the network code is very critical to the sector.
Indeed. I'd like you to touch on issues around crude oil prices. So what is happening? We've seen OPEC and OPEC allies, and all of the issues are surrounding that. Where does DPR stand in all of this?
DPR really is the one that is at the center of this, because every 6 months we give what we call technical allowable volume. That is the acceptable volume to be withdrawn from reservoirs, and that determines the entire volume to be sold. So the stand of DPR is to make sure that Nigeria comply with OPEC and OPEC cut. And to do that, we use the volume to really make sure that Nigeria did not really lose, because the way we maintain and establish the OPEC cut is to see volumes. Too much volume goes with the lower production cost, while lower volumes go with the higher production cost, so that we balance it. At the end, the country complied with OPEC, and at the same time, the producers are encouraged to reduce the cost of production. And that is why one of the survival kit for COVID is cost control and management, where you reduce the cost of production to at least 30%, so that you get more volume to export. That is the strategy DPR is following.
See you. Now, let's talk about this issue that people have also commented about. That's the extension of deadline to register the bids for Nigerian marginal oil field, which was pushed till June 21st. Now, did the DPR record any increase in bidders, and how is this process moving forward?
First, I will say that we have really witnessed an increase after the extension of almost 30% increase in the participation. And as a rule of thumb, if you are making a bid, if you are auctioning any oil field, you need to get at least 10 people per field really going after the field. So for this, we have 57 fields. We have over 600 companies. So we can say that we are celebrating success so far. And after the extension, we are moving according to schedule. And now we are in the phase where we do pre-qualification for the bidders to apply, and everything is going perfectly. And it's a good news for Nigeria and Nigerians that look, still a lot of people have interest to invest in Nigeria. For us to put marginal field, not even oil block, over 600 people are interested, companies, consortium, and venture really partners to be. You know that this country is ready for business. People are still having belief that Nigeria is ready for business.
Let's also talk about your success rate in terms of ensuring compliance with regards to price modulation mechanism and reflecting the upward and downward revision that we've witnessed in some time now. Tell us about that, CEO.
You see, the price in the downstream product, I call it a price freedom regime. We are trying to really get freedom for the price, because on one hand you have to protect the business, people invest in the business, and on the other hand you have to protect the consumers. I'm happy that the price is responding to international market, and that is what we are all working towards. DPR ensure quality, quantity, and safety, and the quantity must match the price that is tagged for any station. And the quality must be there so that the consumer have the exact quantity per unit price, whichever price is there, while the safety of workers and the integrity of the facility is assured by DPR. Because you can't invest and have something that you are serving, bringing energy closer to people. What we do is to get information on all these facilities that sell white-collar product. We have it in our enterprise data warehouse, and we see the integrity, and it will remain the basis for renewing the license when they come for license renewal. Tell them that don't really do that, do this. And for the consumers, we don't want them to be shortchanged for the value they pay for unit volume. And that is the stand of DPR, and that is what we are implementing.
Wow. Now, utilizing our natural gas reserves is one key pillar of growth for the oil and gas industry. And the DPR has set new targets for about 210 trillion cubic feet by 2025. And even more by 2030. How well do you see Nigeria moving forward in this regard? You also said, the minister has said it should be a gas year. Tell us more about that.
Yes. First, I will tell you that we are very conservative in setting that target, because remember, the 200 TCF that was set is to achieve in 2020. We achieved that in 2019, which is a plus. And through all the work program that we receive and the targeted investment for gas, you see that the increase in gas reserve is coming. We believe that before 2025, we will really surpass the target. So we're very conservative for that. And for the year of gas, it's just changing strategy to gas to people. Before we echoed gas to power, now it's gas to people. Nigerians deserve clean fuel, clean energy. They need to have good energy towards them and cheaper for that. We want to really push the gas to have CNG for vehicles so that we have alternative to PMS, to have fair cooking energy so that we save environment. So for this slogan, getting the year of gas and bringing gas close to people, we have a lot of program like the Nigerian Gas Commercialization Program, which is at a stage now that we're opening. So many companies are interested in investing in the player point where the player is being taken. Ordinarily, we are losing, but now people are interested to really take it up, convert it into something, create and generate employment as well as revenue for government and revenue for their investment. As DPR is actually a business enabler, not only a regulator. We use all the service instruments to create opportunity. For every license we issue, investment comes in. For every permit we issue, participation of companies. And for every activity, DPR will only approve for that activity to happen. So through that service instrument, we enable business. We create opportunity for investors and generate employment as well. So that is it.
Indeed, that sounds very interesting. DPR being a business enabler. Before we let you go, CEO, tell us, what more should we expect? We know 2020 looks very challenging, but what more should we expect from a regulator, especially from DPR?
So first, I would like to say that the survival kit post-COVID is there. 4 things, 4 strategy. I will re-emphasize the strategy. Rationalization of portfolio, which you need to get the projects, screen them, negotiate the cost. Then second, that is strategic partnership among Nigerian companies. Then again, third is new business opportunity using the technology to get it done. Fourth, is cost control and management to see how best we can strive and take the nation to the next level. Then the expectation are 4: innovation and resilience, partnership and collaboration, then as well as industry growth and business development. This is what we are sending the message to the entire industry, because we need each other to really awaken the giant in this country so that the investors, this is investors' heaven. I want to borrow the word of Mr. President that Nigeria is open for business.
Thank you very much. It's really interesting talking to you. Chief Executive Officer and the Director at the Department of Petroleum Resources, Engineer Sarki Owalu. Thank you for your time and thank you for joining us on Business Nigeria. We hope to have you again very soon.